arrived at the popular Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas for the running of the United States Grand Prix, the first of two North American races this season and the final US Grand Prix at Austin before the Grand Prix moves to Road America next season. Coming into this week, one driver has been in the news this week along with something extra which we'll get onto later. The only team news for this week comes from Aston Martin, as after a lot of speculation surrounding this team, they have announced that current Formula 2 driver and the final ever BTCC champion Andrei Sazonov will be making his top class debut with the team next season. Andrei has had a brilliant season in Formula 2, continuing the good performance that he has had in the two touring car series. He currently lies 4th in the F2 Championship, 25 points behind current championship leader Nicola Zorbach, and his team Uni Virtuosi lies 2nd in the team's championship, 9 points behind current leaders Van Amersfoort Racing. Andrei has achieved one victory this season, and although he is considered an outsider in the F2 Championship, it was enough to satisfy the bosses at Aston Martin to give him a drive for 2023. Andrei will be over the moon to know that he will be in the top class in 2023, and he'll be looking to have an amazing rookie season. He will replace Johannes Martins, who will be leaving Aston Martin at the end of the season to join French manufacturer Renault. The only question left at Aston is who will be Andrei's teammate, as another Andre Vaderi, is expected to also leave the team at the end of the season after making it clear in his sign-up choices that he wants to leave Aston at the end of the season, with him being linked with both Ferrari and McLaren. Three contenders emerged for Aston, which consist of current F2 driver Joseph Frederic Souto, current DTM and ex-top class driver Victor Bobo, and current World Champ Car Championship leader and also ex-top class driver Gabriel Gomez, should he miss out on his first two choices, which are the returning Toyota team and the rebranded Sauber team. It will be interesting to see who ends up being Sazonov's teammate for 2023. And finally, in other news, this week's United States Grand Prix marks the final race for Amelia Wilson, as she will be retiring from the OC as a whole after this race, and she'll be looking to go out on a high. Since her announcement, there's been a lot of speculation as to who will be replacing her for the final 4 races of the season. Well, after so much speculation, we can finally reveal that the person who will be taking the Alfa Romeo C for the final 4 races of the season will be current Ferrari reserve driver and Nissan Formula E driver Dominic De Celli. Despite a tricky season in Formula E, Dominic was offered the role due to the fact that he is the Ferrari reserve driver, which just happens to power the Alfa Romeo this season, and the fact that Gabriel Gomez, the current Alfa Romeo reserve driver, declined the offer to replace Amelia for the final 4 races due to the fact that he wants to focus on trying to win the World Champ Car title this season before potentially returning to the top class in 2023 should he get a drive. Dominic, along with Andre Vaderi and George Rogue, is linked with the second Ferrari drive next season, and he'll be hoping he does a good job in the remaining few races with Alfa Romeo in order to have a chance of being in the top class full time in 2023. As a result of this, and per the logistics rule which applies to Formula E and World Champ Car along with Formula 2, Dominic will not be able to take part in the Formula E finale with Nissan. However, a replacement for him in Formula E was quickly found in the form of ex-Formula E driver and Brazilian Alan Jefferson, who will be returning to Formula E for a one-off appearance in Nissan in the season finale with the hope of returning to the OC in 2023. It will be interesting to see how Dominic does with Alfa Romeo in the final 4 races, and also how Alan will get on in the finale for Formula E. And that is it for this week's edition of the GP4 OC News. The next team news will break next week at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in the heart of Mexico City. Who will be announced next? Tune in to practice next Tuesday at the Mexican Grand Prix at Mexican's self-named capital city. Hello everybody and welcome to round 17 of the 2022 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas for the United States Grand Prix, the final US Grand Prix of course, before we move to Road America next season. I am JW97 and joining me, just like yesterday for World Champ Car qualifying, it is Kurisu. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing okay. I made it home just in time and I'm excited for this.
Yep, indeed, and well, Austin has usually provided some good races in the past for the OC, of course, especially when it comes to strategy. So hopefully it's going to be the same thing as we're about to get underway for the practice session here at At Austin, of course, as mentioned, the last US Grand Prix here at Austin before the circus moves to Road America next season. Of course, it will be a backup race, this will be, in case any of the races that we've got planned for next season end up running into technical problems. So, yeah, that's that, as we are about to get on the way. 40 minutes of action. I think, from what I remember, the tyres we're using around here, is it the soft tyres, I think?
Yeah, it is the soft.
I thought it was the red soft tyres, which I don't think we've seen for quite a while, if I'm not mistaken. So it could be very interesting when it comes to strategy, how these tyres will fare out. So Romain Quagg now then is going to be the first car out on the racetrack for Renault as he makes his way out onto the racetrack now then, as he makes his way up towards the first corner now then on the racetrack. And we might as well talk about the last race at Malaysia because, well, it was a dominant performance in the end for Franco Lopez in the Mercedes. And, well, he's increased his lead in the championship after what was a bit of a disastrous race for Evan Byrne, you'd have to say.
The Lopez train has gone off and it doesn't appear to be stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, Byrne, who you may remember, of course, in the last race in Malaysia, started on the front row of the grid. And, well, he just kind of got a little bit pinched by the two Mercedes. And, well, he ended up dropping down to 7th. And, well, never really recovered, really, because he actually didn't get onto the podium. Because along with it being a Mercedes 1-2 in that race in Malaysia, this guy actually got the final podium place, Romain Quagg, who actually did a very good job on the one-stop strategy in that race.
Quagg is a legendary driver, if I dare say so.
Indeed, and well, he's had a very good season this season. Has Romain Quagg in the Renault, of course, arguably the best of the rest of this season. That's why he's in 5th in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, ahead of teammate Hayden.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, he's having a good season, and he'll be looking to continue this for the final 5 races of the season at COTA, Mexico, Bahrain, Argentina, and of course Abu Dhabi, which is of course where the finale is going to take place. Romain Quagg.
I sure will hope so.
Whether he can get a win in those final 5 races is another question. I mean, his teammates already done it earlier in the season, but whether he can is going to be a question as Omar Carr gets by one of the Aston Martins. Speaking of Aston Martin, we might as well talk about the team news that happened this week, because I think for a lot of people it's a bit of a surprise this guy's been announced, but Andrei Sazonov will be making his top-class debut next season with Aston Martin. And, well, you've obviously been commentating Formula 2 this season, Kurisu. Andrei has had a pretty good season, it's fair to say.
I'm going to say the main reason he got the seat is because he didn't have much competition for it, but that doesn't take away from the fact he did a good job.
Indeed so, he'll be making his top-class debut next season, and obviously he is the last ever BTCC champion, let's not forget, having won that in 2020, and actually quite dominated that series, it's fair to say. Had a decent season in DTM, and having another good season in Formula 2 in the transition to Formula cars this season. So it'll be interesting to see what Andrei can do in his top-class debut next season with Aston Martin. A bit of a question mark as to who will be his teammate, though, next season, because we are expecting the other Andrea Federi, to...
I don't think Andre and Andre are in any way similar. Sorry, Joe. The names, I mean.
It's a pronunciation. I was just thinking it in terms of pronunciation. But, yeah.
Not really, sorry.
But anyway, Federi, of course, obviously is expected to leave Aston Martin at the end of the season, of course. And, well, he's made it clear in his choices he wants to leave the team at the end of the season. He's linked with both Ferrari and McLaren. But it's safe to say the last couple of races for Andre Federi have not gone very well, especially the last race in Malaysia, where he just seemed to be nowhere in that race.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair enough assessment.
As Romain Quagg now then is going to be crossing the line very, very soon, as he does a 1 minute 31.508, sorry, in the final sector. I kind of jumped the gun there, as Byrne actually goes 1.5 seconds quicker in the Red Bull to do a 1 minute 29, putting him 1.2 seconds off Evan Byrne's time at the moment. Joseph Willow's 1.5 seconds off in the McLaren, as Kloss is also 1.4 off. So a lot of people struggling to get close to Evan Byrne, although we haven't seen the Mercedes cross the line yet. Chonga's gone 8 tenths behind Byrne at this stage in the Lamborghini, as Willows at the moment going around the S's there, and well, he did a very good job to catch that.
Yes, indeed.
As Willows now then, let's have a look at a replay, as you can see, and you can see from the slow-mo, no real issues in that part, but I think it was in the second part where the car started to twitch a little bit. In fact, no, it was here, in fact. It looked like he just got a little bit loose coming out of the right-hander, which led to the left-hander, and then, well, he just nearly took the car into a bit of a spin there. Nicely held there from Joseph Willows, but, yeah, that's that. Of course, last race as well, McLaren actually got a pretty good result at Malaysia. Kirishima De Rosa picking up an 8th place finish, looking pretty strong in that race, and as a result, it does put them above Alfa Romeo in the Constructors' Championship, and, well, they've... they really need to keep this up, really, Kursi, because so far this season, case of will they finish or won't they finish due to the reliability this car has had this season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens because the McLaren has had pretty horrific reliability this season, honestly.
Indeed so. Now, we might as well talk about the other news as well. Of course, this is Amelia Wilson's final ever race in the top class, of course. This is her final race here at COTA, and she wants to leave the series on a high, of course. And she did have a strong result last time out at Malaysia, but we did get confirmation as to who will be her replacement in the news video as well, and it will be, to the surprise of many, Dominic De Celli that is going to be replacing her, the Ferrari reserve driver, of course. And the reason why it's not Gabriel Gomez that's replacing Amelia Wilson, because obviously Gabriel Gomez is the Alfa Romeo reserve driver, is because he declined the offer due to the fact that he wants to try and win the World Champ Car title this season before potentially returning to the top class next season, providing he gets a drive, of course. But yeah, it's safe to say a lot of people were not expecting De Celli to get announced, even though he is the Ferrari reserve driver.
Yeah, that was quite a surprise. I'll say I was surprised as well.
And as a result, of course, because of the logistics rule that we have in the series, which now applies to Formula E and World Champ Car for the time being as well, it has meant that as a result, De Celli will not be allowed to take part in the FE finale next week, which is of course taking place at the outer layout of Sakhir, but instead he will be replaced by Alan Jefferson, who will make a one-off return in 2022 with the hope of returning in 2023 in the OC in some capacity.
It's good to see Alan back, honestly.
It is indeed. What he can do in the last race of Nissan, though, it remains to be seen. But yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting one indeed, especially with that whole finale as well, given that 4 drivers have a chance of winning the Formula E title in that finale, of course.
Yes, indeed.
As whilst we were speaking there, Lopez has gone to the top of the standings, and the top 4 comprising of the Mercedes and Red Bulls is to be inspected. Chatfield currently up in 5th place at the moment in the Ferrari, as he's got one of the Red Bulls right behind. Now, I can say that the Red Bull does have a little bit of a sponsor switch for this race and the next race in Mexico, of course, because of George's sponsor, of course, because he did request that for the North American races, that being USA and Mexico, that he would have the Asda branding being replaced with Walmart. Well, there is on the car right now is the Walmart branding, so that's that for this race and the next race. So it was supposed to be last season as well, but as you know, because of my my issues last season regarding my hard drive, I wasn't able to do that for the 2021 livery, but able to do it this season for the 2022 livery, and that might be something that yeah, that's that really, as you is just going to get something for for the next 3 minutes, so that's why we'll be on autocam. Hopefully something doesn't happen in those 3 minutes whilst he's away, so that's
hopefully
that,
not.
As we look at our car, he's just coming around the hairpin now then, as once again we're seeing him overtake Aston Martins. As now coming out of the hairpin, we will go. I was mainly referring to the spare car ban, Yuri. That was what I was referring to there. But anyway, as Byrne, meanwhile, currently in 2nd place, 2 tenths off, and he desperately needs to have a good weekend here at COTA because, well, in the last race, it was a complete disaster for him, and he finds himself now 16 points behind his rival, Franco Lopez, in the Drivers' Championship. If he wants to win this championship, he's got to do something in his last 5 races.
Let's be honest though, he can definitely still win the title. 16 points isn't too much to overwhelm.
Indeed, but if Lopez can keep up the performances he's been showing, it might be a little bit difficult for Byrne, but we'll have to wait and see on that, as he's just
all it takes is one race.
Indeed so. We have seen a few times with Lopez, whilst he's been looking quick, he has got himself caught up in some incidents. Look what happened in Japan, meanwhile, with Miklos Gau is a prime example, which put
that
Byrne
wasn't Lopez's fault, to be honest, though.
No, but the point still remains, though, that Byrne,
yeah,
of course,
that's fair.
Ended up 1 point behind Lopez in the championship, so it can really change up in these final 5 races, but we'll have to wait and see. One person who is determined to try and get a victory before the end of the season is the man we're currently riding on board with, Amar Kar, because, well, we talked about it earlier on, he had a lightning start at Malaysia to take the lead of the race, and then, really, his race kind of came on, his chance to take the victory there kind of came undone early on when he made a bit of a silly error going up towards turn 4.
I still definitely think he can win a race this season.
I have to see, of course, he's only got 5 races in which to try and get a victory. Of course, George Roke has already achieved a victory this season. His car has a bit of a moment coming through into those corners there, clearly pushing a bit hard in that Mercedes. But yeah, Roke has got a victory this season. Car's still yet to do so, despite the fact the car did get back ahead of George Roke in the Drivers' Championship after, well, not the best of comebacks for George Roque in Malaysia, of course, because let's not forget George actually crashed out of qualifying at Malaysia with Felix Sontag, and it meant he started at the back of the field, and well, the only place he could really recover in the end was P9 with the tyres that we had there at Kuala Lumpur, and well, Roque will definitely want to forget Malaysia as quick as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
As Byrne now, they're just making his way into the final turn and onto the pit straight now, then he will go, as Byrne is now going to cross the line. I'm not expecting him to improve, and no, he doesn't. He's still 2 tenths behind Lopez at this stage of practice at the moment, as we ride on board with George Roque. Just speaking about him a bit earlier on in terms of the performance he put on at Sepang. Looking at Chris Chatfield, who's going underneath there of Jesus Perinin. A weekend to forget in Malaysia for Ferrari, it's fair to say. They find themselves down in 7th again in the Constructors' Championship, but a team that was thriving at Malaysia was Lamborghini. 4th and 7th in the end for both Loa Chong and Rahul Patel, and as a result, Lamborghini now find themselves up in 4th in the championship, and I talked about this a little bit on Discord. That battle for 4th just keeps changing all the time between those 4 teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, well, who knows... Oh, nothing happened, Jerry, in those 3 minutes whilst you were gone. So you're lucky on that regard. But anyway, yeah, it could really. Who knows if it's going to change again this week here at COTA? We could end up finding ourselves with somebody else up in 4th place in the constructors by the end of this meeting. As Martin's just made a bit of an error through the S's. It seems that people really are in trouble getting the car hooked up through into those S's now. Then, as Martin's just makes his way for the right and left-hander now then on the racetrack. But yeah, that's that really. As meanwhile, De Rose has just improved to go into 15th position. Byrne just coming around the final corner there, as he will be finishing off another lap. Meanwhile, of course, with the soft tyres here at COTA, it will be interesting to see what sort of what the degradation is going to be like around here at COTA. We normally see, usually at the beginning of the races, where the action doesn't really tend to be that exciting in the opening races, because people are a little bit too hesitant to go for an overtake at turns 1 and even the semi-hairpin down onto the back straight. But we'll have to wait and see if that's still going to be the case. It's normally when we get the pit stops underway that we normally see the action start to increase around here at Austin. So whether or not that will still be the same case here this season, we'll have to wait and see, of course. Obviously, last season, Amar Khan did win here last season for Mercedes, and he'll want to try and get... He's actually had 2 victories here, of course. He won here in 2018 and won here in 2021 as well. So he'll be looking to try and see if he could try and add a 3rd victory here at Austin, as he currently finds himself 3rd at the moment. Roque coming back into the pits, as he's currently 6 tenths behind Lopez, and only about 54 thousandths behind Amar Khan at the moment in this practice session. Looking at Miklos Gau, meanwhile, in the AlphaTauri, and fair to say, Gau had a very good race in Malaysia, but for David Kupak, not a good race for him. P15 in that race, and yeah, it just seemed that Gau was just too dominant for Kupak at the last race at Sepang.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Gal just comes around the hairpin there. Sontag up in 16th, meanwhile, in the winners. Macho goes up to 9th, meanwhile, in the Haas. And we might as well talk about him, Kurisu, because you may remember, of course, because some people were making some comparisons about how he did at Sepang this season. You may remember the atrocious race that he had in 2017 in the Toro Rosso. Well, a lot of people were getting those similar vibes with Macho at last time out at Sepang, where he just seemed to be a little bit off. He was making so many errors, and it just didn't seem like he was on the pace. It just seems like Sepang is pretty much a bogey track for him.
Yeah, pretty much.
As whether or not he'll want to bounce back from that, because we have said also at that last race in Sepang that obviously Macho is under a little bit of pressure to try and keep hold of that second Haas seat for next season alongside Barger's class. And well, we know he's also linked with Lamborghini as well, but performances like that are not going to really help him out at all if he wants either of those seats, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
John, meanwhile, speaking of Lamborghinis, has just gone up into 6th place, so she's now under a second behind Franco Lopez's Mercedes, as we have just over 26 minutes to go in this practice session, running on board with Chris Chatfield. Of course, Ferrari as a whole wanted to forget what happened at Sepang last time out, as Chatfield now is just coming around his section of corners, as he will now make his way towards the double left-hander, and then approaching the quadruple right-hander we will soon approach now. Then it's kind of a mirrored version of the infamous turn 8 at Istanbul, if we're being totally honest. But yeah, that's what people have compared it to. And a lot of corners around here have been taking some elements of other racetracks. You've got the uphill starting line, which of course kind of reflects the start of the Austrian Grand Prix at Spielberg. You obviously have the S's in the middle of the track, which kind of reminisce Mackett's and Beckett's at Silverstone. And then of course you've got the triple right-hander, which kind of reflects a mirrored version of the infamous turn 8 at Turkey. And even the stadium section before that kind of reminisces the Hockenheim in a way. Not the complex of the corners, but in terms of the atmosphere around it, kind of gives a similar vibe to that, really. So, yeah, that's kind of that, really. I mean, this is obviously, in my honest opinion, I think this is the last good track that Helmut Tilke ever designed, if I'm being honest. I think after that, it kind of went a little bit downhill in terms of track design for him, but that's personally my opinion. And so, yeah, this is pretty much for me the last good track he ever built, if I'm being totally honest, or designed, I should say, because he obviously didn't build it with his bare hand. He obviously had other people helping him build the track, of course. So, yeah, it would have been a little bit bizarre if he did that all on his own. But anyway, as now Chatfield now is obviously coming back into the pits, currently in 5th place, again looking pretty strong. In this practice session, teammate Galloway is currently in 7th place, so 5th and 7th for the two Ferraris. Looking particularly strong around here at the moment of the two Ferrari drivers, but whether they can translate that into qualifying, we'll have to wait and see. And one of the things we'll probably need to keep an eye on for qualifying is, of course, the weather, because for some reason we seem to have had some bad luck when it comes to weather, because we normally end up, for the last, I think it's like the last 4 out of 5 races we've had, it's always been a rain-affected session for some reason. So whether or not that's going to be the case here in Kota, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we get a break from that as well. De Rosa has a bit of a moment going around the right-hander, a huge lock up there, and well, his teammate gets caught up behind him. Not exactly ideal for the two McLaren drivers, and well, that wouldn't have done De Rosa's tyres any good, and well, he would have some life out of those, that is for sure.
Yeah.
As Willows gets by him there into the hairpin, but his lap would have been compromised as a direct result of that. Perina, meanwhile, goes up into 7th place, but just looking where Quarg is, at P9, in fact. So, actually, for once, Renault looking a little bit consistent in the practice sessions. It has been a little bit of a talking point throughout this season that Renault have just been a little bit inconsistent when it comes to lap times, of course, as Carr is going onto the inside of Andre Vaderi there. As once again, he just seems to be overtaking Aston Martins today, is a car. Trying to hang it running outside into turn 2 there. Is somebody going to have to back out for the S's, as they're going to remain side by side. So, but Carr in the end backs out of that one. Might as well mention whilst we're here, of course. Obviously, you may have noticed yesterday, because me and Kurisu were in the commentary box, of course, that the World Champ Car stream had to be cut short to after the qualifying session due to the fact that towards the beginning of the stream we did have a technical problem which ran into Yuri's schedule, where for some reason his Discord decided to die on him right at the beginning of the session. So it has meant that the race got pushed back to today. So the World Champ Car race, which is obviously taking place at Yehognam, of course, will take place after the qualifying session for the top class. Roughly around 6:15 is when the race will start. As had a bit of, I think I just had a little bit of lag there, I think. So I'm probably going to be stuttering for a bit. I don't know what's going on there, but that cut out at the worst possible moment, it's fair to say. So I'll try that again, because I kind of cut out there. I noticed that on the bottom left. But as mentioned, obviously the World Champ Car race will take place after the qualifying session here at Kota, roughly at around 6:15. So be aware of that one, really. So meanwhile, Kloss up on his personal best, but he's now been caught up behind one of the McLaren, so that probably won't help him in terms of lap time there. Armar Carr across the line does not improve because he was busy fighting with that Aston Martin there. He's still in 3rd place at the moment, 6 tenths off of Franco Lopez at this stage, as he just makes his way down the hill through towards the S's now then on the racetrack, as Byrne improves but remains in 2nd position meanwhile, as he now finds himself, well, he's still 2 tenths behind. He's just taken a few hundredths out of it, as that's that really, as now coming out of the next few corners on the racetrack we go. We're running on board with Evan Byrne, and I had something to say, but it's kind of slipped out of my mind there, so I'll have to try and think about what I was going to say at that point, really. But oh yeah, that was it. It was kind of a question I was going to ask to Kurisu, really. And meanwhile, Carl's up on his personal best. So obviously this is the last US Grand Prix that we're going to have here at Austin. But I might as well ask you, because obviously we're going to Road America next season. Which out of those two tracks do you prefer? Do you prefer Road America or do you prefer Austin?
Austin.
Prefer Austin. Why is that?
It just has better flow, in my opinion.
Interesting. Personally, I think Road America is a better track, if I'm being honest, because I think it just has. Obviously, it's as we've seen in the past with the OC, it's overtake friendly, of course, and there's no real Mickey Mouse car. I think if I'm not mistaken, the track is actually the only one of few tracks in the world that's had an unchanged layout from memory. So. Yeah, it's got quite a bit of history there. So, what I guess in their mind, what if it ain't broke, don't fix it, really. And it's definitely been a very good track over the years, especially in real life, and also in the OC with World Champ Car, and even DTM, of course, who recently had a race there 2 weeks ago. Of course, DTM is back this weekend, of course, for the old layout of Hockenheim as the championship draws closer for those guys. Carr again up on his personal best in the first sector, but I did notice when we were looking back at him again, he lost time in the second and third sectors. And, well, Carr now then making his way into the hairpin now then on the racetrack as he will now come down this very long back straight now then on the racetrack he will go as he will now make his way towards the left-hander on the racetrack. Let's see what his middle sector is going to look like, because last time around he did go down on his personal best. Is that going to be the same case or not, because the auto camera decides to give us the middle finger there? How appropriate.
Auto camera is very rude.
Very rude indeed. We're running on board with Jamie Griffiths. Of course, we know he's obviously leaving Williams at the end of the season. And, if we're being honest, Kurisu, we know he's obviously got a link with Lamborghini, but
not
being
gonna
honest,
happen.
He's going to need to find something in these final 5 races if he wants to stay in the top class.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, I'm afraid.
Who knows really what's going to happen. As Armar Khan now, they're making his way across the line. As he now crosses the line now, then, and he does not improve. He stays in 3rd position. As Videri improves to 16th, as I'm having more lag problems there on Discord. I do not know what's going on today. I had some problems yesterday during the World Champ Car stream, and it seems that once again I'm having some issues as well. Wilson has a bit of a moment going around the quadruple right-hander there. Saw some smoke putting out one of the tyres there, so it looks like she had a little bit of oversteer going around those parts of the tracks, as Wilson, who's currently in 15th place, is going to cross the line, and she remains in 15th place for the moment. It looks like she might get caught up in some traffic here, because it looks like the Renault was just coming out on the track at that point. Armar Carr just coming out of the hairpin now then, as Kloss now then goes onto the inside of Joseph Willows, and he finally gets through. He has been blocked by that McLaren for quite a while, but he finally gets the move done now then, as he was up on his personal best last time we checked in that first sector, but then eventually, because he got caught up by those 2 McLarens, he just kept on getting held up, really. So with just under 7.75 minutes to go in this session, this is what the leaderboard looks like then. Lopez is at the top with Byrne in 2nd, Carr is in 3rd, with Roke in 4th, Chatfield 5th, Chung in 6th, Perinen is in 7th, with Galloway in 8th, then it is Quark 9th, Gal 10th, Kloss 11th, Patel in 12th, Kipok in 13th, Mocho is in 14th, with Wilson in 15th, Videri 16th, Willows is in 17th, with DeRosa 18th, Sontag 19th, Valdinger in 20th, with Martins in 21st, and Griffiths in 22nd position. Griffiths at the moment, the only driver to be over 3 seconds off of Lopez's time at the moment. Everybody else is either 2 seconds, 1 second, or just under a second behind him at this stage. Carr still doesn't improve at this stage, and he's still 6 times off, and he's coming into the pits at the end of this lap to possibly put on a fresh set of soft tyres. So that's that as he makes his way through into the S's now then, as he now goes around the double right-hander now then, and once again up, but you can see by how much he's only up on his personal best, 9,000 of a second, so you can tell how tight of a margin it would have been to try and keep that up in the next 2 sectors, as he makes his way down towards the hairpin on the racetrack now then, as we can see that the top 6 are currently under a second behind Franco Lopez, but everybody else over a second, or over 2 seconds, or in the case of Griffiths, over 3 seconds at this stage. So, yeah, that's that really. And obviously, during the next week, of course, and I normally do this with whoever is in the commentary box, of course, for the following week, because I normally do this for like the 4th to last race anyway. I normally ask people their predictions on on what the remaining seats are going to look like, really. So that will be something to pay attention to in next week's commentary over for the Mexican Grand Prix in Mexico City. And, well, there's still quite a load of seats to be determined as well. And we did mention that it could, in the pilot episode of the new series, get quite chaotic. And, well, so far, it could end up being like that at the moment, because there's still quite a lot of seats to be filled out. Of course, we know that there's at least one Mercedes seat still available as well, because of the fact that Franco Lopez is, of course, moving to the returning Toyota team next season. So that's pretty much that. And so it's going to be quite interesting to see how the rest of the remaining 4 races are going to pan out, really, in the news videos. I've got a little bit of a feeling, and I think I can say this, I've got a bit of a feeling, unless things change within these next few weeks, which, knowing the OC, it's bound to do. I've got a bit of a feeling that we might end up having quite a big finale episode from the way it's going. But who knows, really? Like I said, it could all change in these next few weeks, and we just end up having only a couple of drivers getting announced for the finale. But we'll wait and see. And no, I will make it clear, because I know there was someone in the stream chat that used to think this in the past. We don't give out a set number of people for the finale. I just want to be strict on that. We don't give out a set number for the finale. It's just the way it pans out is usually the number that ends up being there for the finale. So I don't know where that whole thing came from, how we usually set numbers for the finale. We don't. It's just how it pans out during the season, really. But yeah, it's I just thought I'd clear that one up. So anyway, as now Kloss just making his way down the hill towards the hairpin, as Lopez now then just trying to get by on one of the Hasses. Rope meanwhile improves to go up into 3rd position, and he finds himself now 4 tenths behind Franco Lopez, who we're currently viewing right now. He just overtook that Haas there of Bartri's Kloss, and Kloss now then actually using Lopez's slipstream to try and gain some speed onto that back straight. And well, that's as Kloss now then making his way towards the double right-hander, towards his like little arena section of the racetrack now then, as now just coming around this left-hander, as Kloss now then just coming towards the quadruple right-hander on the racetrack for the 3rd and then 4th we go, as now Kloss coming towards the final couple of corners. He will go on the racetrack, as he will be crossing the line soon, but it's not expected he's going to improve. Looking at the dev panel on the top of the screen there, as now Kloss is just coming down the pit straight and across the line. He will now go, and he does not improve. He stays where he is for the time being. As we look at Chung now, then he's just trying to get by on the McLaren, and she does do indeed there, as Chung looking to try and see, in fact Patel as well, looking to try and see if they can continue the form for Lamborghini, because so far this season Lamborghini have scored points in every race so far in 2022. 16 races they've gone without scoring 0 points, and so yeah, that's that really, as they'll be looking to see if they can make it 17 in a row here at COTA. They've been a very consistent team this season, despite the fact that this year's Lamborghini has gone backwards compared to last season. They haven't had the pace than what they had last season, where at times they were able to challenge for a victory, but this season hasn't been the case. It's just mainly been the Mercedes and Red Bulls, and to some extent the Renaults as well, that have been fighting at the front. The Renaults sometimes getting involved when a track suits them, basically, but they're not really consistently up there with Mercedes and Red Bull. So yeah, that's pretty much that this season for them, of course. Whether or not they'll make it 17 points finishes in a row, we will have to wait and see. As Kloss now, they're making his way towards the quadruple right-hander. Might as well mention as well, for anybody wondering, of course, is hold the fort, because it looks like Chatfield's making a mistake coming around that right-hander, and well, doing a similar error to what Kawashima DeRosa did, coming around at that part of the track, but luckily was able to save it at that point in time. But back to what I was just about to say there, for anybody wondering what number Andrea Sazonov is using for next season, he'll be using the number 40 next season. So
what about the Celli?
Celli's using number 25, so the same number he would have used if he was doing Ferrari reserve driver duties. So he'll be having number 25 on the Alfa Romeo, and Jefferson in Formula E will be once again using the number 70 like he did previously. So
okay,
that's that really. So they are the numbers for anybody who is concerned, of course. As thanks to that mistake that Chatfield made in Sector 1, he puts himself 2.5 seconds down on his personal best in that middle sector, as Chatfield just comes around the right-hander there before approaching the quadruple right-hander, similar to that of the Istanbul complex, but in mirrored form, of course. as he now makes his way in towards the final couple of the corners on the racetrack, and he's not pitting just yet, even though I would imagine that his tyres will be kind of a little bit delaminated. May have a bit of a flat spot after that lock-up he made a little bit earlier on, and, he doesn't improve 3.1 seconds of his pace, and still not going into the pits just yet. He's going to continue to go around for a little bit more. There are a few cars still in the pits meanwhile. Lopez, Roke, Kloss, Q-Pop, Mocho, Verderi, Willow, Sontag, and Martins are currently in the pit lane as of right now, as Chatfield now making his way through these section of corners on the racetrack, now approaching the left-hander. He will go, as Chatfield now then coming towards the right and left-hander. He will go, as he will now come down towards this quick left-hander, which on a motorbike is usually quite difficult to master, but in a car it's not really too much of a hassle, really, even though it is quite bumpy at that part of the track. So yeah, that's that really. Obviously, the main characteristic of this track is usually the bumps, of course, because this track is prone to sinking quite a bit, it's fair to say, due to where the track is located, really. It is kind of prone to the surface kind of sinking a bit, which kind of creates these bumps over time, and that is why often every year Austin at times has to relay certain parts of the track just to get rid of those bumps, really. So it's kind of a little bit of in terms of where the track is located, really, which is why they have to do that on the times. Meanwhile, Carr improves to go up into third position. He's just under 3 tenths behind Franco Lopez in the Mercedes, as we ride on board with Miklos Gal now. Then he's just getting by on one of the Aston Martins there. Not sure if that was Martins or Verderi. I sometimes get their colour of their helmets mixed up, if I'm being honest, as we look at Rahul Patel now then in the Lamborghini, as he's just making his way through the quadruple right-hander himself. He's actually coming up to the back of the two Renault drivers. And, speaking of Renault, of course, even though Quark actually had a podium last time out in Sepang, his teammate Jesus Perinen, once again, getting caught up with bad luck, really. And, whenever it comes to reliability in the back of that Renault engine, Kurisu, it just seems like Jesus Perinen is always the one that gets the bad luck with that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Patel just comes out of the final corner there. First corner, what am I talking about? As now he just he's just trying to approach those two runners. In fact, it was Martins that Gal just overtook there. At times, like I said, I just get confused with their helmets, really, because from the one side, they are quite similar in terms of colouring, really. So, yeah, that's that, really, as Martins is actually up on his personal best in the first sector by 0.05 of a second. So we're just under 8.5 minutes to go. This is what the practice session currently looks like then. It's Franco Lopez at the top with Evan Byrne in second. Amar Carr is currently in third with George Roke in fourth. Then it is, hold the fort, because Mocho's now making a mistake in that part of the track. Once again, the third person that we've seen making a mistake going through into that part of the track. But as mentioned, Franco Lopez is at the top with Evan Byrne in second. Amar Carr in third. Then it is George Roke in fourth. Chris Chatfield is in fifth with Laura Chog in sixth. Jesus Perinen is in seventh with Roman Quarg in 8th, as my finger's just frozen a bit there. My Discord decided to freeze there for a little bit. I have no idea why. But, yeah, I don't know if I'm a little bit behind or not in terms of the commentary, but it did kind of freeze there on my end. But, as mentioned, Franco Lopez, try again for the third time. Franco Lopez top with Evan Byrne in second, Amar Khan in third with George Roke fourth. Then it is Chris Chatfield in fifth with Laura Chung in sixth. Then it is Hazel Brun in seventh. Then it is Roman Quarg in eighth, Jake Galloway in ninth, Miklos Gal in 10th, followed by Barges Kloss in 11th, Rahul Patel in 12th, David Kupok in 13th with Michael Mocho 14th, Amelia Wilson is in 15th with Ben Faldinger in 16th, Andre Verderi is in 17th with Joseph Willers in 18th, Kirishima DeRosa in 19th, and then it is Felix Sontag 20th, Johannes Martins 21st, and Jamie Griffiths in 22nd. Both DeRosa and Martins improving whilst I was speaking there, but both of them not improving in terms of position. Griffiths is still the only one to be just over 3 seconds behind Franco Lopez at the moment and not able to reduce that gap at this stage of practice. Meanwhile, as Carr now they're making his way towards the final couple of the corners now then on the racetrack, as he now just makes his way into the final corner. But at this stage, Kurisu, I might as well quiz you on this. Who do you think at this stage is going to win the championship? Do you think Lopez will win it, or do you think Byrne will win it?
Byrne.
I think Byrne will still win it. Why do you think that?
Because I'm the Red Bull reserve driver. I have to root for my team.
That old joke you keep doing.
But it's accurate.
Oh, yeah. So Johannes Martins now then making his way down towards the left-hander. as he will now make his way towards the end of the middle sector. Down his personal best now in the middle sector, not able to match what he was able to do on the previous lap. His teammate Verderi, meanwhile, is coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Whether we'll see him come back out again later on, we'll have to wait and see. There is still just over 6 minutes to go, well, 5 minutes when he comes into the pits, of course, but yeah, for him to possibly go back out again, but we'll have to wait and see as we're getting to the closing stages of this practice session here at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, as Verderi now then making his way down towards the hairpin on the racetrack. Martin's across the line. He will go now then, and he does not improve. He stays where he is for the time being as he just makes his way up towards turn 1 on the racetrack now then, as he now makes his way down towards turns 2 and then into the S's now then we will go. Through the left, right, left, and double right he will go, as there is Joseph Willows, who has a little bit of a moment going through into there, has a bit of understeer kicking in there in the BMW powered McLaren, but yeah, that's that really, as Willows now makes his way in towards the final corner and onto the pit straight now then he will go, as Willows now then is going to finish the lap. It's not going to be an improvement thanks to that mistake, and he stays down in 18th. Looks like the McLarens currently struggling around here in Austin, down in 18th and 19th. Whether they're holding something in reserve for qualifying, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, both of them currently down the field at the moment in this practice session. As now we look at Rahul Patel just making his way towards the left-hand. He had a bit of a lock-up there, the Lamborghini driver, as Patel now making his way towards the quadruple right-hander on the racetrack now then, as he will now make his way down towards the final couple of corners. We will go on the racetrack, as he will soon be crossing the line to complete his lap now then, and it's not going to be an improvement, and that's that. But whilst we've got this little bit of down period at the moment here in this practice session, I might as well touch upon a story I touched on yesterday, because I mentioned yesterday that dog commentator, who sometimes likes to bark in the background, of course, wasn't there yesterday. That was because she was currently in the doggy hospital due to the fact that she was having a blood transfusion in her legs. Well, I'm glad to say she's now back home and she is doing fine, it's fair to say. Although her bark is great news, but her bark seems to be a little bit off at the moment. She sounds like she's got her voice has gone, it seems, so she does sound a little bit weird whenever she barks. That's probably due to all the pipes that she's had while she's been at the hospital. But she'll get her voice back eventually, and then you'll hear a normal voice. But if she does bark, then you may notice that her barking might be a little bit different in the background. Just thought I would point that out there. So,
all right.
Yeah, that's that then. So, meanwhile, Roke, oh, that was very close indeed. Now, I do know that hairpin has had a little bit of a pass, really, of having drivers overdo their braking a bit and crashing into the car in front. And I thought for a minute that Roke was going to crash into Sontag, who he obviously crashed with in Sepang. So, yeah, it would have been a little bit of unfinished business there from the last race at Sepang if that were to happen. But yeah, that's that really. As Martins is coming back into the pits this lap, but I think that will be him done for this session because there's only 3 minutes left in the session now then. But yeah, that's that, as now making their way towards the quadruple right-hander. I guess in terms of other news, George, because obviously Sazonov was the only 2023 news, but the news is that Dominic DiCelli will be replacing Emilia Wilson for the remainder of the season due to the fact that Gabriel Gomez declined the offer to take the seat for the final 4 races. So he'll be taking the slot instead because he's the Ferrari reserve driver. That was the other news, and obviously Alan Jefferson will take his place in Formula E for the finale at the outer layout of Bahrain. So
that's a nickname for DiCelli, by the way, since he's relevant in the news now. My nickname for him is DDC.
I might actually, in fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, in fact, I think the 3-letter prefix that we sometimes have on the timing graphic, I think it actually did come as a DDC at one point when I was hosting it with DiCelli, but obviously I think I changed it in the end to DEC in the end. But yeah, it's quite an interesting one there indeed, although he's only got one C in his name. So
yeah.
I honestly don't know why it's a DDC. Oh no. What am I talking about? DDC, not DCC. What am I talking about? DDC. You were right. What am I talking about? Anyway, before my brain goes into explosive mode, we've got just under 2 minutes to go now then in this session, as we've got just under 1 3/4 minutes to go now then, as we now look at Felix Sontag now then, who goes into the double right-hander now then, as currently finding himself in 20th position, 2.2 seconds off the pace, off of Franco Lopez, as yeah, pretty much that was me there, Yuri, for that part there. Just trying to work out the maths there on that part. I think I had a little bit of a Windows error in my head. But anyway, as now I think we're going to ride on board with the drivers for the remainder of the session then. So De Rosa crosses the line, no improvement for him. He stays where he is for the time being. Looks like Roach is just going to get some mileage in that Red Bull before the end of the session. Felix Sontag across the line, he will go, and he stays in 20th position. Michael Mocho across the line he goes, currently in 14th place, 11th and 14th so far for the two Haas drivers at the team's home race. Only no improvement there, and no improvement for Valdinger either. Quag doesn't improve either, he stays where he is. Looks like one of the Mercedes is also getting some mileage there before the session comes to a close. Andre Videri coming around the final corner now, then he will go, as he will make his way across the line now then in the Aston Martin. As we have just over 30 seconds left on the clock, he crosses the line and does not improve, stays in 17th position. Amelia Wilson in her final top class race before she retires after this week. She now crosses the line and she does not improve, stays where she is. As we now look at Franco Lopez, who's not improving at the moment. Looks like he's going to remain on that 1 minute 29.717 at this stage. Just coming around the quadruple right-hander now, then he will go before making his way into the final couple of the corners on the racetrack now. Then approaching the final turn goes Franco Lopez in the Mercedes as he now makes his way out of the final corner. 1 second to left, 0. The checkered flag is out. That is the end of the session. Who actually crossed the line before Lopez there? Just going to double check on that on the stream. And, well, people were actually coming to the pits. It was Wilson who was the last one to cross the line there. So that's that. Lopez didn't improve on that occasion. De Rosa now then just coming out of the final corner himself, making his way onto the pit straight, and De Rosa now then comes across the line and does not improve. Patel just getting some mileage there in the Lamborghini, as he was getting some slipstream there off of De Rosa at that point in time. Felix Sontag across the line and does not improve. Michael Mocho making his way out the final turn in the Haas. He comes onto the pit straight now then, and across the line he will go, and he does not improve. Valdinger doesn't improve either. Quag doesn't improve. Roach just getting some mileage. Martin's also mileage. Carr also mileage. Videri just coming out of the penultimate corner himself in the Aston Martin, just making his way into the final corner and onto the pit straight now. Then he will go, as the Italian now then will make his way across the line in the Aston Martin. Across the line he goes, and he does not improve, stays where he is. Of course, getting some mileage. Wilson, the final car to cross the line now then in the Alfa Romeo. She makes her way out of the final corner onto the pit straight. Wilson currently in 15th position. She crosses the line and she does not improve, stays in 15th. And that is the session done with Lopez top, Bernie in second, and Carr in third. So really, it's just basically status quo from Sepang at the moment.
Pretty much.
Pretty much indeed. Whether that continues on into qualifying, we'll have to wait and see. Well, we're just going to take a brief pause for the moment. Obviously, we're going to stop the stream and then come back with a fresh one for qualifying. But in the meantime, I've been JW97. She's been Kurisu, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a bit.
Yep, see ya.